The PS4 has brought with it some technically impressive games, and as we're heading in 2019, expect some of the best looking games that we've ever seen on the PlayStation 4, and that's what we're going to be covering in today's video, specifically 15 upcoming PS4 games that look to have absolutely insane visuals. We'll go through each game pretty quickly, so let's get right into it. First up, we have Metro Exodus, and this one goes without saying. Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light were some of the best looking games that I had ever seen on last generation platforms. However, they were a little handcuffed being on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, with Metro Exodus being on next generation consoles. This game really looks to be raising the bar for the Metro franchise, and what we've seen thus far has looked incredible. It's also a more open game than Metro 2033 and Last Light, so there's gonna be a lot more to take in, but expect Metro Exodus to be a very visually pleasing game. Next up, we have Anthem. Anthem is a game that has quite a bit of controversy surrounding it. However, you cannot deny that this is a visually stunning game. From its vibrant art direction, world design, it's a very good looking game, and usually BioWare games do look pretty good, but not at the level of Anthem. You look back at like Mass Effect Andromeda, it's not like that game was at the visual and technical level of Anthem, but Anthem, if nothing else, definitely got the graphics down pat, and we'll be able to get an early taste of the game because BioWare will be running a couple of demos for the game, so I know a lot of you guys aren't sold on it, but you will be able to have an early and free taste of the game. Moving on from that, and this is a game that hardly anyone is talking about, and that is Lost Soul Aside. Lost Soul Aside is one of the best looking games that I've seen, but it only isn't the graphics that's incredible about the game. When you actually see this game in action, the fluid combat, great music, there's a lot to like about Lost Soul Aside, and definitely not least being the visuals. This is a wonderful looking game with some great art direction. Who knows if it'll actually drop in 2019? It's been in development for a little bit, but this is a PS4 exclusive you guys need to know about. Speaking of PS4 exclusives, one that left our jaw on the floor from a technical side is Ghost of Tsushima, the latest game from Sucker Punch, and it's surprising how visually impressive Ghost of Tsushima is, because Sucker Punch, while they've crafted some great looking games, it's not like visuals have been the one thing that stood out from Sucker Punch titles. They're mostly known for Sly Cooper and Infamous, and those are good looking games. Infamous Second Son especially being a rather good looking game, but Ghost of Tsushima is on another level. This game looks incredible. From its realism and attention to detail, Ghost of Tsushima is shaping up to be an incredible game, and it does look like this will be dropping in 2019. Moving on from that, another exclusive, The Last of Us Part 2. Of course, when you talk about Naughty Dog games, you have to talk about visuals to an extent, because all of their games seem to raise the bar for visual fidelity. Look at the Uncharted games. The first Uncharted title was arguably the best looking game on the PlayStation 3 up to its point, and then you had Uncharted 2. You could say the same about that, then you could say the same about Uncharted 3, and the first Last of Us was a great swan song on the PlayStation 3, and then of course you had Uncharted 4, which up to this day, you could still make a legit argument that it's the best looking PS4 game until The Last of Us Part 2 comes out. Once again, Naughty Dog is gonna maximize the power of the PlayStation 4. That's something they know how to do better than anyone. Getting every last drop of power that the PS4 has, they will get out of it with The Last of Us Part 2. And of course, given how excellent The Last of Us was, every other area of The Last of Us Part 2 should be great as well. Moving on from that, we have Dying Light 2. Now, Dying Light was a game that was heavily commended for its visual fidelity, but expect that to be great in Dying Light 2, and also from a gameplay standpoint, Dying Light 2 looks much more fleshed out than Dying Light, so not only are you gonna get those better visuals, but Dying Light 2 looks to be a far better game all around with a lot more options, a bigger world. This is just a game that's shaping up very nicely. It doesn't seem like the anticipation level is quite there yet. However, I think as we get closer to the release of the game, that should be ramping up. Moving on from that, we have Death Stranding. Of course, a Kojima title. This is his first foray into a video game after Metal Gear Solid and everything that went down with Konami, but now it's a new chapter. It's Death Stranding. And while we still don't know much about the game, yes, we've seen footage, we've seen the game in action, we still don't know what this game really entails, and I'm not the kind of guy that's gonna break down all of the trailers. There's a bunch of other people that already did that. What I'm gonna tell you guys is that this game looks awesome, and I imagine it'll play great too, because if you look back at how the Metal Gear games played, those games ran very, very well. So not only do I expect Death Stranding to be a technically and visually impressive game, I also expect it to run very well while retaining those visuals. There's been a lot of teasing going around that Death Stranding will in fact drop in 2019. Let's hope that is the case. Moving on from that, we have yet another PS4 exclusive, and it's one coming from the guys over at Sony Bend Studios, and that is of course Days Gone. When Days Gone was initially revealed, I was a little bit skeptical. Another open world zombie horde game, I just didn't know what that really would entail, and I didn't know if the PlayStation 4 needed needed that kind of game, but as I've seen more and more of Days Gone, and one thing you'll note as we've gotten more footage is that the performance and visuals have gotten better and better. Initially, when we saw gameplay of Days Gone, it looked a little bit iffy. I wasn't sure how that game was gonna run, but the more footage we get, the more I'm sold on the game, and it looks like while this is an open world zombie game, it's not just a game based on mayhem and based on these hordes of zombies. There will be a strong narrative in Days Gone as well, and I'm super excited for that. And of course, how can you not be excited by the great visuals? And it's a little bit surprising on that end because this is Sony Bend's first console title in a very long time. The last title I believe they worked on was Uncharted Golden Abyss, which for the PlayStation Vita, a very good looking game, but with the PlayStation 4, of course, you're playing a different ball game, but they seem to be playing that very well, and Days Gone has a release date. It'll be coming April 26, 2019. Moving on from that, here's another game not a lot of people are talking about, and that is Skull and Bones, a new IP from Ubisoft. And Ubisoft this generation, I have to give them credit, even though not all of them turned out to be great, they have dropped new IP after new IP. You look at The Crew, For Honor, The Division, and now we have Skull and Bones as well, a naval-themed game. While we don't know all too much about the game, what we've seen thus far has looked rather great, and from a visual side of things, as per usual from Ubisoft games, it looks really great. It looks like Skull and Bones will be released in fiscal year 2019, which means it might be pushed back until early 2020. Hopefully it drops before 2019's out. Moving on from that, if you guys are familiar with the channel, you guys know I have to give Judgment a mention. This is a game coming from the Yakuza team, and Yakuza really wasn't known for its incredible visuals. However, Judgment seems to be the game that's really raising the bar for what they can do. Now, Judgment was a game that was built ground up for the PlayStation 4, so already it has that going for it. And visually speaking, it looks fantastic. And this is a game we already know how the final product looks like. The game's already been released in Japan, and it looks marvelous over there. Played the demo, it looked great there, and the full game should be coming to the West sometime in 2019. Next up, we have another very exciting new IP, and that is Biomutant, coming from Experiment 101 and the guys over at THQ Nordic. THQ Nordic has been putting out a lot of exciting games, and Biomutant probably ranks up there at number 1 for me. It's such an interesting game where you play as this hybrid creature in this open world post-apocalyptic universe, and it's got a very vibrant and colorful art style. We'll see how the final product turns out, but so far what we've seen of Biomutant looks rather good. Gameplay wise, it still looks a little bit iffy. We're still a ways away from the official release of the game, so hopefully it develops into something remarkable, and this could be another game that really puts THQ Nordic on the map. THQ Nordic has been putting out some solid content, however, they need that big new IP to show gamers that they're here to stay. Moving on from that, of course, I had to give a mention to the Resident Evil 2, the remake. Resident Evil 2 is widely considered to be one of the best survival horror games of all time, so when it was announced it was going to get a ground-up remake for the PlayStation 4, how could gamers not be excited for it? And so far, what we've seen of it, it's evidently clear that this isn't a simple remaster. It's not even a simple remake. This is a full ground-up remake, and it looks like a brand new game. It's gonna have new content, and of course, from a visual side of things, it is looking incredible. We're pretty close to the release of this game. It's dropping January 25th. Moving on from that, we have Tom Clancy's The Division 2. Of course, I had to give this a mention as well, because while not everyone was a gigantic fan of The Division, what you can say about the game is it was one of the early standouts of this generation for being a technically impressive title, and The Division 2 looks to be building upon that. Is it a gigantic leap technically over The Division? From what we've seen thus far, no, it doesn't look to be a massive leap, but it's on the same platform, and what we are seeing is a pretty incremental improvement, so that's really all we need, and The Division 2 looks to be a really good looking game. Moving on from that, of course, Doom Eternal also had to be on this list. Doom is a game that looked really good back when it was released in 2016, and another thing about Doom is this is another game that played really great. While the visuals were great, the performance was also there, and I expect similar results out of Doom Eternal. I know Bethesda's not everyone's favorite publisher right now, but you can still be excited for Doom Eternal based on what we saw out of the 2016 title. And lastly, this is a game that's going really under the radar, and it's a shame because the release is just a few weeks away, and that is Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown. Ace Combat 7 is kind of coming out at a bad time right ahead of the release of the Resident Evil 2 Remake and Kingdom Hearts 3. Those games are just naturally going to have more anticipation, but Ace Combat has been a long-standing franchise, and it's a pretty well-received franchise, and we don't get a lot of flight games, so I feel like there should be a little bit more excitement out of Ace Combat 7. Whatever the case may be, hopefully the game turns out well. Now, we don't know the quality of the game because it's not out. Of course, what I can tell you is visually the game looks great. It's going to have a PlayStation VR component as well. Hopefully that holds up, but technically this is one impressive game. And that's going to conclude this video. Remember that these are 15 of the games that are just announced thus far. We obviously had to omit some titles. There are some other great looking games coming in 2019. I can point to Kingdom Hearts 3, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Control. There are a lot of technically impressive games, and again, 2019 looks to be that last major year for the PlayStation 4. I think by 2020 time, we're gonna start prepping up for the PS5's release, so expect visuals to hit a real fever pitch in 2019. That's gonna conclude this video. Make sure to sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.